Hi, everybody. This is Nick from AVLI. Today, I'm going to talk to you about the online formative answer system called nothing less than Formative. Formative is an application that's been around for a pretty long time, and I actually, I don't know, I feel a little bit like a patron. I mean, it's free. I've never paid for it, and they've never paid me, but I did sort of stumble upon Formative when it was in its infancy, and worked a little bit with the creators of the program. And so now that it's a lot older, 8 something years older, I don't know. I just sort of every time I see Formative and see what it's become and see how it works, I feel almost like a proud dad or uncle or something that it's whose son or nephew made it to and create and became successful in life or something like that. I really like this platform a lot, and I think it offers a good deal in the way of formative assessment, particularly now that we might be doing a little bit more remote learning. I think this is just a great way to solve a lot of problems. And I know there are teachers at my school that are concerned, for instance, if they ask someone to answer a question, is that person just copying from someone else? Are they emailing the answers? Are they looking it up online? Formative is just kind of a neat formative assessment tool that I don't know anyone can use, and it has a whole lot of applications. In fact, I'm not even sure really that it was really designed for the humanities. I think it was probably meant more to be a science and math thing, which I'll show you in a second. But um, I kind of I don't know, commandeered it for the purpose of English class, and I know some history teachers that have been using it at my school as well. So it's all real time, and I think it's extremely applicable. So let's look at what we got. All right, it's a lot like, I mean, I know Socrates is another one that is really popular, and it's pretty similar, I would say, to Socrates. Um, the major differences would be that Socrates has kind of the learning game going with the space race, I think it's called, and the teams, and then also the ability to, once you have submitted, to put all the answers up for a vote or something like that, and the students can all chime in. So I would use Socrates, for instance, if we're writing thesis statements, we have a thesis statement contest. Everybody writes a thesis statement, and then I can put it up to a vote. You sort of vote for the thesis statement that you think is the best and why, and then it'll give you the breakdown of what percentage of people voted for what. But you could also use Socrates for something like exit slips, or even just after a quick 7-minute lecture. Hey, who write down your statement, write down what you think about what we just talked about. Guys, write it down, and then everybody votes at the end of like which person most accurately hit it on the head. Is a good way to synthesize things like that. So formative does not have that, and that would be something that Socrates has, I would say, over formative. However, formative is much more real time. So even as like down to as they're typing, you can see the individual letters going into the different screens, and also has some cool drawing applications and other ways to answer besides just the multiple choice and just the essay that or true false that Socrates gives you. Okay, so let me just show you this activity here. At the end of a school year, I like to do something that I made up called character cocktail party, and what you get is you get a note card, and on the note card, the student picks it up, and it says the name of a character from that year. Okay, so from any of the stories we read, one of the characters from any of the books or short stories or plays or whatever. Okay, so you could pick it up and it could be Macbeth. You could pick it up, it could be Grendel. You could pick it up and it could be Marlowe from Heart of Darkness. Right, it could be anybody from any book. And so the first bit is that they would have to think about like who that character is. Okay, they put this in their pocket, and then everybody goes to the middle of the room, and their job is to find a similarity with. They cannot say who they are, so you can't walk up to anyone and tell them anything physically about yourself. So you can't say that you're male. You can't say what story you were in. You can't say that you're a king or something like that. You can only describe yourself using abstract characteristics that can be inferred by the story. Okay, so let's say I'm Macbeth, and I say I have an overactive imagination, and the other character is the miller from the Canterbury Tales, and he says to me, I don't have an overactive imagination. I have a simple imagination. in which case we would say, okay, nice to meet you, but like it's not a match. So you kind of mingle, right, until you meet someone else. Maybe you say as Macbeth that you are a little bit ambitious and slightly greedy. Now the character that or the student that's Grendel says, you know what, I'm also greedy too. I was kind of greedy and self-centered, right? So now you have found a partner. You sit down and you open up the character cocktail party. Okay, character cocktail party. I'm going to ask these questions to you, and you're interviewing your partner. So now that you've sat down with them, you can say, okay, I'm Macbeth, and the other guy can say, okay, I am Grendel. Okay, so now you're interviewing them. What are the ideas, rationalizations, rationale, abstract objectives that we have in common? You write them down. Okay, what are the non-physical differences between your character and your partner's character? So how are we different now? We know that Macbeth and Grendel are both sort of self-centered or become that way. However, the one thing, like Macbeth is a dynamic character and Grendel is not a dynamic character. Macbeth changes and gets worse throughout the play, and Grendel is just like consistently evil from the opening lines all the way until Grendel dies. You put that in there. Common theme. Would they get along? Okay. And then one that I like to do just for fun is to show off this program a little bit is to have them now draw a picture of their partner's character. So now when I go to view responses, it divides it up into all five questions. And what's neat about it is as they are writing, I can actually see the writing happening. Okay. And then I can click on the answer, and I can drag this to show about where I am in terms of what they were supposed to do there. Okay, so you could say ahead of time, like, you know what, I'm gonna give, I'll drag it all the way over just if you do it, and that'll just indicate that you've completed it. But what I like to do is just on the board, write a list of like, here's a 1 answer, here's a 10 answer, and sort of maybe have a little rubric up there, like the difference between a 1, a 2, a 3, 4. And then as they're answering and I see it, I can just drag this to where that stood. So like, let's say this guy, had a 9 out of 10. As he's writing, I put that up there. He can still add stuff to it. I can go back and change it. And as I'm giving him real-time feedback, where you're at right now, you're about at a 5. He sees that. He can look on the board or on his rubric and see what that means, and he can start adding to his answer what it is that we're looking to get out of it. Okay, so maybe his isn't exactly non-physical. Maybe he says something that is actually sort of physical or sort of obvious, in which case I would put him down, say, toward the 3. Now, this isn't being graded per se. I mean, this isn't going into the grade book except as a completion grade for 1 or 2 points or something like that. But quality of answer out of 10, okay, he can look at the 3 that I've given him as he's writing. Like literally, he's writing this. He's not even finished, and I can sit at my computer, read what they have, and start dragging it to there. Now he sees that it's a 3. He looks at the feedback that matches up with, and then starts to add to it, and then I can start to drag this up. Okay, and of course at the end here you've got. Let me see if I can get these to pop up here. I don't know if these were erased, but anyway, they would all draw pictures, whatever they draw on. Oh, here we go. Whatever they draw in that box. This is Icarus, wife of Bath, right? Lady plus Bath. That's good. He understood. Maybe a character from the Canterbury Tales. Okay, and some of these are pretty bad, but it's just fun. I think it's a fun way to kind of end the assignment and kind of a silly way to use it. However, I mean, you probably start to see, as a teacher of a different class, right? Like how you could maybe use this in your class. So when you're starting a new formative or a new assignment, look at all of these are just the free options, right? All of the different free options that you have, and even more if you pay not even that much for the premium. Okay, you'd get an audio or video that you can add to the question itself, and a couple other options, like if you're a math teacher and you want to do graphing, sequencing, etc. So these are all all possibilities. But the show your work is what I use for the drawing, and I think probably that would be really good if you're a lower level grade school math teacher, for instance, and you give them a math problem and you want them to show their work by using the stylus to write right there on the computer screen. You could see it as they're doing it and sort of give them feedback that way. I mean, one other thing I want to say about Formative is not only is it user friendly, but the people that run Formative are very forthcoming with their communication with the teacher, right? Like even if you were to just tweet at Formative, like, hey, I got a question about this, or I really liked this. If you have a good assignment and something that you use Formative and it goes well, and you just even say Twitter, like, hey, thanks, Go Formative. This was great today. They'll put it on up there on the website, right? They'll show it off and kind of and give you feedback on it. It sort of reminds. I got these glasses on one of the Warby Parker, like the online deal, and it's kind of similar where like you send away for the glasses, they send them to you, but they're sort of like texting back and forth with you the whole time. They want to see, like, when you first get the trial pair, you're putting them on. They're telling you how it looks. Like, hey, try these. Maybe you would like these. You try them on. You end up making the decision. But then, like, as they're sending them, somebody will text you and say, hey, glasses are on the way. And then when you get them, hey, can you put them on? I want to see what they look like. Make sure everything's right. Formative reminds me a lot of that. Just the care that they have for the customer, and you're not even paying anything for it. Really quick, immediate feedback from them, whether you have a question or you want to show something off that you did, or just like feedback. Other teachers have tried this. Why don't you try that as well? And like I said, occasionally even taking an assignment that you did worked really well, putting it up on the website as an example. It's great. And going back to the website, you can see what some other teachers have done. And again, I'm reluctant to go in and show too many things like, oh, this is what I've done. This is what I've done. Because stuff like this isn't about copying or taking what another teacher did. Not that I would care or think that it's perfect what I did, but what this is it's a platform, it's an easel, it's colors on a palette, and you as the educator, you and your students are the ones now that are designing, the outline of the painting, and then of course deciding how to paint it, what technique, etc. And so this is just another brushstroke. This is another thing that you have at your disposal. It's another way to mix it up, and it's another thing that if you are at home remotely learning, that you can do some real-time stuff, despite the fact that you're not in the same room. This is a real-time formative thing, and it would work asynchronously as well. I mean, as students are filling things in, if you have it open and you can see this, you can go in and sort of like mark down, give response, give feedback, etc. But playing around with some of the different options that Formative has, and I don't think Formative would ever be the only formative application that you would use, but when you add Formative to something like Socrates or Nearpad or whatever your favorite one is, you really have a pretty good arsenal, and a varied sort of angles at which to attack the curriculum. Right? These kids that we teach need multiple avenues by which they can show their improvement and eventual appropriation of skills that we're teaching them in class. What doesn't work one way, all of a sudden you look at it another way, and this particular student is able to click. Okay, so formative is going to be like that, and for some people it'll kind of be the key that unlocks the learning of a skill for them, and that it gives them so many different ways to demonstrate. Again, take a look at it, flick through the different options, and really experiment with what works for you, what works for your class. Last thing I want to say too is formative also works really well is just like something as the students enter the classroom to sit down and sort of start maybe like a journal or something before you get into class to sort of understand where they need to be for that class, like what things you might need to touch on. And it also works really well as an exit slip too. Thank you.